Balton, good evening to you and thank you for joining us. So, I mean, essentially, reporting racism just a click away?
It's something we're trying. It's in a pilot phase. It's never been done here before, but it has been tried and tested in Ireland, across Europe, Australia and parts of the US as well. And we're hoping that we will be able to leverage off the usage and the scale of technology today to at least enable any victim or witness of racism to report it, either anonymously or to give us all of the details that will enable us to do the required follow-ups and provide the support that's necessary.
What prompted such an innovative way of dealing with this problem?
In hindsight, there's nothing innovative about it. We report potholes using apps today. And it's something that came out of the National Action Plan to Combat Racism, which the Department of Justice has drafted. And the country has been grappling with how to monitor racism. And in the anti-racism network that the Kathrada and Mandela Foundation have initiated, we then came across this as a proposal. Fortunately, the Gauteng Innovation Hub were receptive to the idea, put one of the incubators onto this called Geek Culture, and these young people then developed the app.
I suppose one of the things that it's going to require is that when these hotspots are identified, from what I'm understanding, you'll then be able to send facilitators to those areas to try and deal with the problems as they arise. Is that correct?
That's the long-term intention, is to develop the capacity to mediate and to facilitate and to intervene and give guidance as and when we come across these hotspots as well.
What do you say to people who say that, well, I mean, there are areas for socioeconomic reasons, for traditional reasons, historical reasons that might be more prevalent as far as racism is concerned. An app isn't going to make people change their attitudes and their prejudices.
The app gives us an entry point to understand where the work needs to be focused on. The information that's coming out of here will give us, I think, an idea of where racism, at least reported racism, is happening, the areas where it's located, the times that it's happening, the institutions where it is, and the geographical location. So this will give us a wealth of information around which I think we can then develop the differentiated strategies that are needed to deal with this problem.
But of course, you're also going to need some kind of investigative capacity. Yep. You're going to need legal capacity to deal with any of these issues as they arrive. People will say this is noble, but it's a bit naive in terms of dealing with people in this way. You can't talk people out of their prejudice.
No, we can't talk people out of their prejudice, but we can certainly bring those to book who need to be brought to book, and we can offer support to those who require support. And where institutions need to be challenged in terms of culture change and policy change, I think this will give us the openings to that.
Where will the resources come from?
It's being initiated by the Kathrada Foundation initially. Today, in our launch, the Department of Science and Technology was there, the Department of Justice was there, but there are other major donor organizations who have funded this in other parts of the world. For now, the whole of March is a pilot period. Flowing from this, I think we would look at the ease of usability, functionality, and then the long-term backup support systems across the country that's required for this. We've had preliminary discussions with a number of legal institutions and legal aid bodies who have indicated support for this idea, and they would look at how best to then deploy legal people across the length and breadth of South Africa as well.
Social media is usually quite good at highlighting incidents like this, platforms like Twitter or Facebook. Why is that not enough?
Well, I think that allows a conversation to take place, doesn't allow intervention, mediation, and conflict resolution to in fact take place where you bring people into the room.
What have we not learned? What have we not done right since 1994? Why are we still having this conversation? Why are we still plagued by the scourge of racism?
I think the question itself is one that I've tried to respond to by saying we should not be surprised with this. This is something that is part of the DNA of South Africa over 300 years. It's entrenched. That it's coming to the fore now and then should not shock us. What should shock us is that we don't have the capacity to deal with this in terms of the anti-racism institutional academic and mediative capacity to deal with the problems that we have now seen. We just don't have that capacity, and that is something that all the members of the network are now beginning to focus on. The Mandela Foundation is leading a 10-year program, an international program, to in fact start developing the anti-racism thinking and leadership capacity that this country sorely needs.
Now, I understand it's only immediately available on Android.
It is. We were told today by the app developers, by the Innovation Hub, that they will now very shortly put this across all platforms.
Of course, you're here in your capacity representing the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. And I remember an interview once I did with Uncle Kathy where he told me that upon his release from prison, they were told that the information would be faxed, and he didn't even know what a fax machine was. What might he have made of this app and this development?
He would be very thrilled. Firstly, he was passionate about the need to take on racism. As much as he came out as a technophobe, he was a collector of all kinds of technology and items. So he was a technology collector. Not that he could use them, but he loved just gathering the stuff. And I think today, being almost 2 weeks away from his death anniversary, it's appropriate for us to have launched this. We also launched it in the auditorium at Menkosa that was named after him about a year ago today. I think he would be absolutely thrilled. And
of course, he loved young people who'll be the main drivers of this technology. That was Neeshan Balton, the Executive Director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. Stay with us, we'll have more after this break.